Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Progress BravePoint MDBA Services with Mike Fergal, who is our Director of Managed Database Services for Progress BravePoint. I'll be your host today for the webinar. My name is AJ Crete. I am a Partner Marketing Manager here at Progress. And on to today's speaker, Mike Fergal, Director of Managed Database Services at Progress BravePoint. Mike has worked at Progress Software and Development since 1989, where he was a manager of the OpenEdge database team. He then joined Progress BravePoint in 2012 as Director of Database Services, where he and his team are responsible for managing over 1,500 distinct databases and over 66 terabytes of data. As a former developer of the OpenEdge database, Mike brings a unique perspective as both a consumer of the OpenEdge technology, but also as a developer of the same technology. Mike has presented highly technical topics around the world at nearly all of the Progress conferences and Progress user groups. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, AJ. So, as AJ said, I'm here to talk about the Managed Database Services, and here's the agenda. I'm going to talk about who BravePoint is and what the history is, what BravePoint products and services are, and then I'll get into the Managed Database Services. So, BravePoint is a company that was established in 1988. When Progress bought BravePoint back in October in 2014, there were 140 consultants on staff. These were 140 people that were hands on keyboards doing consulting work. It was a complete North America focus. It's a company based out of Atlanta, Georgia, so hence most of the work that was being done was in the North America space, heavily on the East Coast. Things that BravePoint does is a managed database service, which we'll be talking about. We also have a QAD practice that does implementations, customizations, platform migrations, and just generic OpenEdge consulting. There's also products. We've had webinars on the Pro2 Enterprise product stack, but we also have a Pro Dump and Load, which is near zero downtime for a dump and load processing. So here we're going to talk about the Managed Database Service. So the Managed Database Service is a team of people who are managing your operating environment, your OpenEdge environment. The team is unparalleled in the world. We have 10 DBAs, each with over 20 years of experience. We also have Follow the Sun support, where we partner with a team in Australia. So they're providing overnight support. That team is also 3 members of the old Progress Consulting team or the old Progress Tech Support team that was based in Australia. When Progress decided to move their Asia-Pac operations from Australia to move a lot of that technology to India, these people formed a company, and we're partnering with them to provide our overnight support. And likewise, I already mentioned 2 people. Libor and Merrick come from us from the EMEA. That's one of the great things about Progress buying BravePoint is it has enabled us to expand our team in areas that we wouldn't have expanded previously. Again, North America focus, now we're a worldwide focus. So the Managed Database Service, it's a software-based solution. So the way it works is we install software. The software does sampling and monitoring of the application environment. If something's gone wrong, it will send an email to the on-call DBA. Each database that we're monitoring or each application that we're monitoring can have its own thresholds for when an email gets sent. Some cases you may have an email get sent when a long transaction is running that's over 60 minutes. Another application environment in the same customer might say, well, 60 minutes on this database is okay, 120 minutes is going to be the threshold for this one. So we have that flexibility to adjust the thresholds per database, per environment. Another key piece is each customer has a primary DBA. That team that I just shared with you in the previous slide, one of those team members will be your primary DBA. That person will know your environment the best, but that person is also responsible for making clear documentation. The documentation is very important because that DBA may not always be available. They could be on vacation. It could be nighttime and they're asleep. So we have clear documentation so the on-call DBA can be as effective as the primary DBA. So that brings us to on-call. We have no level 1 support. The DBA that receives the call is the one that's going to solve the problem. We know how important your business is. We know how critical it is when there's an issue with your production environment. We do not pass things around to somebody who may be more skilled, because there is nobody more skilled. 20 years experience with each person that's going to be receiving the call. We also have a web-based dashboard, so you can look at what you're seeing or what we're looking at, and you can see the metrics that we're looking at, and you can look at the trends, and you'll get a monthly report. And I'll go into each one of these a little bit more. To give you a sense of size, this is not small. This is not a part-time job for us. It's not and we do this too. This managed database team does really nothing but managed database stuff. We have over 100 customers, and we have, as of yesterday, August 10th, 1,644 databases. And you might ask, how do you know exactly how many databases we're monitoring? That seems like a lot. Well, we have all the metrics that we're collecting. I have a dashboard and a console that tells me everything that's going on. So 1,644 databases representing 66 terabytes of database space. And on that day, August 10th, we had 108,000, even more than that. There's like 108,650 total connected users for the high watermark for the day. That's pretty impressive. Nobody else in the marketplace has a program that's this strong or has a team that's this strong. So who are these customers? The customers include banking, manufacturing, everything you'd expect an OpenEdge application to be running on. As you know, OpenEdge is very good in the manufacturing space, but it's also in the banking space, hospital, insurance, warehouse. You might be surprised to see banking here, but we have many banks that allow us to go in and help them manage their database. So if there's any security concerns that you may have with your environment, understand that banks are offshoring this or outsourcing this to us as well. We're not targeted to any specific OpenEdge demographic. We work with both direct end users of OpenEdge as well as application partners end users. So we have an onboarding process. The onboarding process is a process where we log into your system, install the software, and then document the environment. An important part of this is that we also make recommendations for what we see. We do what we call a mini database health check. So we'll look at the environment and we will make recommendations to change this, change that, change this, make sure you have a solid disaster recovery plan, and document all this and make recommendations. So just part of the onboarding process is an exercise that should provide more stability and more performance to your environment. So what's the software do? Well, here's a picture. We install a database. It's a ProMonitor database, and that ProMonitor database connects to every database in your system and collects samples every 15 minutes. We also have a heartbeat process. That heartbeat process goes and makes sure that the application is available, and that runs every minute. We're not just looking at the databases. This ProMonitor software also looks at the app servers, name servers, and web speed agents. So when it samples, it will test the sample against thresholds. And if a threshold is met or exceeded, it will send out an email to the on-call DBA. Here's an example. Here's an alert that happened. As an example, customers HP, pretty well-known name. The alert is that the BI file exceeded this threshold. The value is 5.1 gig. The threshold was 5 gig. We get an alert, and at this point, we're going to take action on it. The person that gets the alert is going to be the one that solves the issue. Once we solve the issue, we create an incident report. The incident report describes what the alert was, when it came in, and what actions we took. And you can see it's very detailed. We do this for you, the customer, to have this for your archives, but also we attach this to your page so we have a history of the alerts that we had to take action on, so we can get a trend to see if there's something bad happening on the system that's repeatable. So that way we can take further action to correct that. And as part of the incident report, we also include steps or things to change in the environment to prevent this issue from happening in the future. So also, on a daily basis, we take the metrics that we're collecting from your application environment and we send email up to our backend database, which is much larger. Our goal here is not to include yet another database on your system. We only keep 2 weeks worth of data on your system, but we'll keep all the data on our backend system. Our backend database is about 1 terabyte in size right now. The customer databases that are managing the data for just that customer that hosts the 2 weeks tend not to grow more than 1 gigabyte. So we're not adding a whole big, yet another set of infrastructure on your system that needs to be managed. This should be a set it and forget it type of installation. So that backend database allows us to run monthly reports and generate this web-based dashboard. This dashboard is available to the customer. It provides a lot of detail of the operating environment. So for example, this is a database view. We're seeing a list of databases that are being monitored and managed for this customer. And there are some things highlighted in red. The red highlights are issues that may or may not need to be addressed. I'll give you some examples. If you look at the AI column, that stands for after imaging. Well, we would like to have after imaging turned on for every single database. But we understand when you're managing 1,644 databases that there's going to be some cases that you don't really have to have after imaging on. So this is showing us which databases should have after imaging on, which ones don't have it on, and which ones don't have it but need it. The ones highlighted in red that say no are databases that have significant update activity, but after imaging is not turned on. The databases that have no in the AI column but are not highlighted, there's no need for after imaging because there's no update activity happening on those databases. So this is a view into the dashboard that you have access to. We have a similar dashboard that we have internally that provides a lot more detail about each environment and what's going on. So the monthly reports. On a monthly basis, after the first of the month, you'll get a report. The report will show trending analysis. So we'll take your databases and we will do a trend to see how busy those databases have been over the last 6 months. This is a great opportunity for seeing, are you growing? Is this maybe a code change that possibly made more record reads than you expected? It's a great way to look at it with a trend. It also provides capacity planning for the next 6 months. So in the next 6 months, how much disk space are you going to need? Do we need to do any extent maintenance to add storage to the databases? And then it identifies upcoming maintenance events. This provides your primary DBA a talking point with you to talk about projects that you're working on or things that we should be doing, like maybe turning on after imaging or testing a disaster recovery plan or any items that you collectively are working on. So what's included with the service? Included is all reactive business critical issues. When your database is down, your application is down, and it's not functioning, we will be there. We will be there to support you, and we typically can solve any problem within 1 hour. It's very rare for a team with this skill set not to be able to deal with any issue within an hour. So sometimes it does happen that maybe you had a disk failure, or maybe we had to restore a backup, and we're rolling forward AI files or whatever it is that happens. That's typically going to extend beyond an hour. So since this is a part of the consulting operations, we will start billing after the first hour. But most 99% of the time, business critical issues get solved within an hour, and that's all included in the service. The web-based dashboard's included, and we find a lot of customers like the service just for the software. The alerts that they get and we get are very useful to them. Proactive analysis. The primary DBA is constantly looking at your environment to make sure that it's running well and constantly looking to see if there's rooms for improvement. Monthly reports that we just talked about, and technical advice. You now have this team at your disposal to ask questions of, and as long as we don't have to do a lot of research for those questions, we'll answer those questions, and that's all included. What's not included in the service is planned maintenance. If you want to do a dump and load, we're available to help you do a dump and load, but that would be billable. Non-production issues. We have a lot of customers that ask us to refresh the test databases or to manage the test databases, shut it down, start it up. Because that's not a business critical function, that tends to be billable work. And then any project work. The team is available to any of these customers to come up with scripting, disaster recovery planning, enabling after imaging, anything that's database related. We could do platform migrations, moving you from one machine to another machine. All that comes under project work, and all that's available, but it's not included in this managed database subscription. What else can the database team do? The database team is available for database projects. Database health checks. We do about 2 or 3 of these a week. This is where we will go into your environment, whether it's one of our managed customers or somebody coming in off the street, we will look at that environment and make recommendations to make that environment run better. Platform migrations. This is moving somebody from HPUX to Linux, for example. We're doing this once a month. It doesn't make a difference what application you're running. We have the ability to do this, moving you from HP to Linux, or an old Linux machine to a new Linux machine, Windows to Windows. Doesn't really make a difference what platform or what application. We have a very solid methodology for doing this. And again, we do this monthly, whether it's for a managed customer or not a managed customers. Dump and loads. We do dump and loads every single week. 1,644 databases. You got to imagine that we're doing this maintenance all the time. Unlike your DBA that you have now, or you have maybe had experience with previously, a dump and load is maybe an annual event or something that happens once every 2 or 3 years. So that's a learning experience for that person all the time. Because we're doing it every week, for us, this is just what we do. This is meat and potatoes work for us. Open Edge version upgrades, we're available to do that, moving you from version 10 to version 11, have a lot of experience there, and disaster recovery planning. The database team is also available to do Open Edge feature implementation, Open Edge management, Open Edge auditing, TDE, table petitioning, everything on this list the team has experience and expertise doing. So if you want to implement any of these new features, this is the team that can help you. So to summarize, the Managed Database Service, it's a comprehensive database management. It is an extension of the existing team. This is not a replacement of the on-site staff. It can be, but that's not typically what it is. Typically, it is an extension of the team to allow the person you have on site to maybe do this part-time or maybe go on vacation. So when that person is not in the office, we have the ability to come in and take over. It's alerting, it's trending, it's planning. It's the largest and strongest team in the industry that includes follow the sun support. So now I think I'm going to pass it back to AJ to open this up for questions.
Great, Mike. Thank you for the information you shared with us today. First, what would be a customer's main motivation for exploring a managed database service?
Well, the most common thing that happens is people have somebody who's part-time doing the DBA work for the database and the application. As you know, the Progress Open Edge database does not need a full-time person looking at it after it day in, day out. So it tends to be a part-time job. And what typically happens is that person that's doing this part-time, their other duties end up becoming bigger, so they're not paying as much attention to the database. And either the customer realizes this and says, okay, we have a gap or a hole that we need to fill, or another common reason is that this happens and then they have an outage, and that part-time person had struggles bringing the environment back up because it's not something that they're dealing with day to day. So those are the two most likely reasons why people would use the service. Another one, however, is people who are trying to find and hire somebody for DBA work. There's not a lot of people that are out in the field that are available that know this technology. So we are a great way to outsource this technology to a customer so they can get the service they need without having to hire somebody full-time.
Great. Is there a way that a customer could see a web dashboard or any sort of demonstration of this service?
So this was a PowerPoint presentation, and I believe you're referring to the web-based dashboard that the customer gets. That was a snapshot from a point in time. If you want to see more, the best way to do this would be to talk to your sales rep, who then would engage me, and I can walk you through one of the external dashboards showing you what we're collecting and drilling down to each of the web links so you can see what we're collecting. But also, we have an internal dashboard. The internal dashboard is much larger than the external dashboard. The external dashboard gives you a subset of the data. The internal dashboard is another web-based view that gives you all the data. So we can drill down to the sample, look at performance metrics for any individual sample, drill down to which table's being accessed the most and who's accessing it the most. We do this sometimes with our managed customers. We'll start at the external dashboard saying, look, something happened on this day, and then we'll switch and we'll go to the internal dashboard, drill down on that day, be able to look and debug the problem. And usually the outcome of this is they say, oh, we know what happened. That user was running this report, or we made a code change, and that code change apparently is bad.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I know you can't speak specifics. Is there any indication you can give to the costs?
So this is value-based, meaning if you've got a very complex environment, then the cost is going to be higher. If it's a very simple environment, the cost will be lower. The best way to find out about the cost is to engage your sales rep. But I'll tell you, in loose terms, we want to be a fraction of what a full-time DBA is. I do know that there are competitors in the space, and we've bumped into them in sales situations before, and I can tell you that we have come in much lower than our competitors. Why? I think it's because we scale. We have this very, very large operation that we have here, where our competitors that are doing this are just getting into this, so they haven't scaled yet, so they have to price this much higher for them to be able to do it. But again, the best way to do this is to engage with your sales team. That eventually will get to me, and then we can learn the environment and come up with a cost structure based on how complex it is and what kind of work you want us to do. Our latest customers want us to do more than just manage and monitor the application. A lot of them want us to do more than that. They want us to run audit reports, for example, or do periodic test refreshes of the database. Those were tasks that maybe they had a part-time person doing that's now been redeployed someplace else. So they want us to do all that. So knowing how much work there is and what the scope of the work is will help us determine what the subscription price would be.
We have another question that just came in. OpenEdge management has dashboard views, does trending and alerting. How is this service different from that within OpenEdge?
Okay, so OpenEdge management is a product. It's a product that you can purchase, you can install. It does have trending, does have graphing, does have alerting. So this is something you could use to manage and look at your database and application environment. The managed database is a service. We don't use the OpenEdge management software. We use different software that came from BravePoint when BravePoint was purchased. That's called ProMonitor. ProMonitor is no longer for sale, so if anybody wants the monitoring and management tool, they would be going to OpenEdge Management, and we have plans in the future to bring some of the ProMonitor functionality that's missing in OpenEdge Management into OpenEdge Management. So we use ProMonitor as our way of managing and dealing with this large, complex environment. So the difference really comes down to the managed database service is a service that does the management of the database. OpenEdge management is a tool you could purchase to do the management of the database yourself.
All right. Another question that came in. You had said that dump and loads are performed every weekend. Thus, does this activity require downtime of the application?
Dump and load always requires downtime of the application. So we are doing it often. We have the best way to do this. We do this at the most effective way possible. So with our managed customer base, we are working with the business to find the appropriate downtime to do the dump and load. We typically will do a test dump and load beforehand when possible, so we know exactly what the downtime is. So we can work with the business to say we need 6 hours of downtime on whenever it's going to be. Given that we have around-the-clock support, that downtime can be any time. It could be a weekend. It could be a weekend at 3 o'clock in the morning in the U.S. because we have people in Australia that are available on that weekend during their daytime, and they can do the work. Dump and load always takes downtime, but if you cannot deal with the downtime issue, we have a product that's a service offering called Pro Dump and Load. Pro Dump and Load eliminates the majority of the downtime required for a dump and load processing. The way it works is we have a small downtime on the front end on one weekend where we would install triggers and install the software. Then you make a backup copy of the database, do a traditional dump and load. That could take a week. And then you have another downtime on the back end, typically the next weekend, where we apply all the changes that have been happening to the production database during that period. And then once we're done and we're verified that everything's good, we swap the databases. So that's a way of dealing with the downtime required for a dump and load, but eliminating the majority of the outage for this. It's only 2 small outages as opposed to being down for the entire time of the dump and load. Again, we do this for our managed customers. One thing we could do for anybody that is interested, we could do a test dump and load, provided you had disk space or a machine, and tell you exactly what the downtime would be to do a dump and load. And then from there, you could determine whether you have the time within the business or whether you need to find other alternatives. Keep in mind that as long as the database is structured properly, you don't have to dump and load the entire database at once. You could do it in segments, so you could end up having the entire database dumped and loaded over 4 or 5 weekends or 4 or 5 outages. Do a segment on weekend 1, weekend 2, weekend 3, weekend 4. That would eliminate the length of the outages, but you'd have many of them.
And lastly, for any of our partners or customers that have any additional questions for you, what's the best way for them to get into contact with you?
Well, my email's on the slide, mfergal@progress.com. Knowing my history here, that was part of the introduction. I've been involved with Progress since 1989. I am always happy to help customers. I'll answer any question that comes in, provided this is reasonable. If I have to go do a whole bunch of research on something, I'll let you know and say, I don't really know. That's best if you have to talk to tech support, or if you want some help, that you can talk to me and I'll get you connected with your sales rep or the professional services sales rep, and we can figure out how to move forward. The goal here is for you guys in your business to be successful. That's always been my goal when I've been at Progress, is to have the customers be successful and their business be successful. When you guys are successful, we all win. So I'm here to help. My email again is mfergal@progress.com.
Great. Mike, want to thank you very much for your time today, and everybody enjoy the rest of their day. Thank you.
Thank you.